just now tuning in, hit the like, hit the subscribe, and hit the bell. GMS fam, the green room. Let's have a good weekend. Yo. Oh, smoking today, baby. GMS fam, what's going on? I got my Pinchy intact, fully packed, and ready to go. How y'all doing today, man? GMS fam, the green room. I hope y'all taking a lovely hit because it is the weekend, baby. It's Friday. Hope y'all doing well. Peace, love, and positivity to everybody out there. I hope you passing on that energy to everybody else. Hope everybody was getting to the money, getting to the goals, getting to everything they wanted to achieve today and this week. It is a beautiful day. It really is a beautiful day. I wish it wasn't so cold in Minnesota today, but it's still a beautiful day outside. What's going on, Mickey Knox, Simo, Arias, King Lukey, Sanan? What's going on, everybody? Now, we have to talk about some things going on in the culture, in multiple cultures, actually. One of them being our culture, the other one being the comedy culture, and the other one being the comic book culture. Now, as you see the title and as you see the thumbnail, we got some things to discuss, but one thing I want to get to that's going to take up probably most of the time, not most of the time, but a lot of the time, I won't say most of the time, a lot of the time, is this Dave Chappelle situation. Now, ever since my guy Dave came out with The Closer, one of his last stand-up specials that he's going to put out. Hey, he said he got ice cream cake on deck. Okay, I see you, bro. Smoke up. I got weed in my mouth. But anyway, after he came out with his last stand-up, The Closer, of course he got the backlash that he was expecting. Because just like before, they did not listen. What up, Ivor? They totally ignored the points that he was making and what his frustration was about and continued to make it about whatever it is they felt like it was. So, more so, ignore what's coming from the horse's mouth. Let's just create an agenda around the horse because we don't like that horse. So, it's crazy because one of the things that has been another obvious thing from this whole situation is that you have the typical white individual who will come and defend what's happening as far as people being outraged about Dave Chappelle, but it being the same people who he was talking about in his special. You guys come here to defend what's actually, you haven't even watched it. A lot of people haven't even watched it but form their opinion because of how they have to stick with what is they deem to be socially acceptable without even listening to what's going on. This man does not hate gay people. He doesn't hate trans people. He doesn't hate the LGBTQ community. He said this in his shit. But because he tells jokes and because the way he was telling jokes, they were offended by that. Now, they called for the special to be taken down off of Netflix. And Netflix inevitably said no. As you can read right here, Netflix co-CEO Ted Sarandos is doubling down on his defense of Dave Chappelle following the mounting controversy around his latest comedy special. We have a strong belief that content on screen doesn't directly translate to real world harm. Now, he may have bit himself in the tongue with that because of the simple fact that, yes, we live in a world where people are definitely weak enough to see some things on TV and then try to translate that into real life. Let's be real. There are people that can't separate this shit from real life. I mean, why do you think there's a whole cosplay world and a whole world of medieval reenactments and stuff? People can't get away from fantasizing about shit. They over fantasize shit. So him talking about, directly translating to real world harm, I disagree with that. But when it comes to comedy specials, it's comedy. It's fucking comedy. It has nothing to do with like any documentaries or movie or TV show. This is comedy, this is stand up. And the fact that they can't, or they're trying to block these comedians from doing what they do best. And it's not like, and they make it seem like he just targeted the community. It was like, no, he made a special. You guys reacted to it. So he's responding to the backlash that he got in other specials. This was another version of him trying to clarify. This wasn't even him responding to backlash anymore in this last special. This was him clarifying his stance one last time so that he won't have to repeat himself, while also putting together amazing stories, because Dave Chappelle is such a good storyteller. Like, people, and they did exactly what he said they would do. Be outraged without even listening. They did not listen to him. And then they skipped over the whole Daphne story. And then that's another thing about the whole Daphne story. Did you guys know that now there's this statement that came out of the blue from Daphne's roommate, who is now speaking against Dave Chappelle, telling people to please not watch his special? And I'm sitting there wondering, why did that happen? So I had to see what her statement was. Let me show you guys something. I have to show you guys this. Hold on, let me read some of your comments. My bad. Mickey says, and right there is the problem. You did not just state 3 different cultures. You stated one, and all of those are just offshoots of the white dominated culture. Exactly. Chappelle's career has been a controlled psyop leading up to where we are today, which is why Netflix is giving off the impression they stand with him, even though this is them controlling both sides. It might be. All the fake allies and liberals prove Dave's point exactly. Mickey said they said that Dave was transphobic in the specific words, the specific phrase, the specific sentence, or anything that he actually said to prove the point. It's just exactly. Simo said, I watched Dave's special twice after hearing of the backlash. I watched it 3 more times to see if I missed something. Yeah, no, you didn't miss anything. It was just a simple fact that they made it what it is, and they made sure that people were outraged on Twitter before they could be able to see the fucking special themselves. And then already, like, so then when you get to people too on social media, they're so easily influenced and so easily ready to go along with what people are saying because they want to be so socially correct and politically correct that now they already formed an opinion about it. So when they see it, they're only going to focus on the bad shit or what they think is the bad shit. So now we get to here because the whole Daphne story was Dave trying to show that he wasn't against transgender people. He wasn't against that. He didn't hate transgender people. He was trying to let them know he worked with one. He wanted one to open up for him. He wanted to do this and that. So please keep in mind who Dave Chappelle is, right? And if you're in an industry where people reach out to you, or if people say they're going to do some shit for you and it don't happen right away for you, don't take it as them not being genuine and not doing whatever or keeping their word. You talking about somebody as high profile as Dave Chappelle, who has a lot of things going on for himself. So if somebody, and then on top of that, Dave said in his special that he told Daphne, anytime I'm performing in San Francisco, you can open up for me. Not, hey, do you want to come on tour and open up for me? He didn't say that. He said, anytime I'm in San Francisco, I want you to open up for me. That's exactly what Dave said. All right. Now, pay attention to what they all of a sudden found on social media, which is the Daphne's roommate. She said, seeing the Daphne Dorman story from her roommate's side and not just from the side of the super rich asshole who only gave a shit because she helped him deflect criticism really makes it clear that Dave Chappelle needs to go fuck himself. All right, let's see what the roommate said. All right. Sorry if this is a little long-winded. Daphne's roommate said, this is going to piss some people off, but I ran out of fucks to give when Daphne died. TLDR, too long, don't want to read. I beg you not to watch Dave Chappelle's special. Today has been 2 years since Daphne chose to end her life. It's 2 years, right? It's been 2 years, okay? 2 years. Keep that in mind. I want you to keep that in mind for a specific reason, because you can tell somebody's intentions about doing some shit by the way they say shit. And they usually give it away when they're not being genuine. They say certain shit that they forget and they trip themselves up later on. So just remember that. Today has been 2 years since Daphne chose to end her life. I don't say committed blank because committed implies that it's a crime. It seems surreal that she missed the C pandemic, Tiger King, the insurrection, and so many moments from her friends' lives. I miss her jokes and know she would have made CQ so much more bearable for many folks that appreciated her humor and social media. People ask me if she blanked herself because of Dave Chappelle, henceforth called DC. She's going to refer to Dave Chappelle as DC from this point on. So she said people asked her if she did that because of Dave, mentioning her in his 2019 special because she ended her life just 1 week after it came out. Daphne met DC at a comedy club while he was performing. He was telling controversial jokes and she was laughing because she always had a dark sense of humor, but Daphne never told racist jokes or punched down on groups of people. She used humor to heal from pain. She told self-deprecating jokes and used humor to educate people about trans issues. She never used humor to be hateful. Before DC's 2019 special, he really buttered her up, promising to mentor her and take her under his wing. I was suspicious of his antics and didn't really appreciate his style of humor, but I was happy for Daphne if she was happy. See, now that's another thing. That's a red flag. You know what that trend that's going on right now with the red flags? It's a red flag when you have a friend that has a somewhat promising career apparently, and she meets somebody like Dave Chappelle, and Dave Chappelle promises her all this stuff or says whatever he said to her, and you immediately become, in what this sense is, skeptical, which AKA would translate to jealousy, because you got to watch your friends out there. She had a vendetta against Dave Chappelle from the jump. So, of course, she's going to come out here and pull out a statement out her ass out of nowhere to speak against him. This is her giving herself away also. Now, watch. As I keep going, she's going to give more of that away. Remember when I say that Daphne passed 2 years ago. She said, before DC's 2019 special, blah, blah, blah. I watched part of Dave Chappelle's 2019 special when it came out because Daphne was so excited for it, but I couldn't even finish it because I felt like it was so offensive to different marginalized groups. But I didn't want to criticize it because I knew Daphne was excited for the shout out, even though the mention of her was so quick you could miss it. Like, this is what I'm saying. The agenda with this right here, I mean, be glad that he shouted somebody out that he only met a few times in his fucking life out of everybody that he knows personally and who he's actually close friends with. And you talking about how quick he mentioned somebody in a fucking stand-up special that will go down in history as some of the best stand-up comedy specials of all time. He didn't have to put her in the special. He said he would, and he did. He kept his word. But this is what I mean. When people already have their fucking preconceived notions about you, and when they already feel a certain type of way about you, this is what you get. This is why certain people are skeptical when people come out years later to say certain things about people, and it'd be like, why are you saying this now? But anyway, this is where it gets tricky because, like I said, when Daphne passed 2 years ago, and it happened a week after Dave Chappelle's 2019 special came out. So listen to what else she said after this. Then after Daphne died, it was crickets from Dave Chappelle for months and years after it happened. Months and years after it happened? She has been gone for 2 years. Do you know what Dave Chappelle did in those 2 years? Do you know what he's under contract doing? Do you know that the whole pandemic happened in 2020? What do you mean? What do you mean? See, people expect way more than what they should think they get. What they think they should get. First of all, why are you worried about Dave Chappelle reaching out to Daphne's family? Think about that. Talking about it's been crickets. Do you understand what this man does for a living? Do you understand who he is? Do you understand what he has to do? And we talking about what happened after. Like, let me keep going. When a group of her theater comedy friends threw a memorial for her in San Francisco, DC didn't say anything. Why are you worried about what Dave Chappelle has to say? It's supposed to be about Daphne, right? Imagine that. Something so tragic happened. There's supposed to be a memorial. All her friends and the people that cared about her put a memorial together, and you standing there worrying about fucking Dave Chappelle. For what? Let's keep going. When her funeral in Pennsylvania happened a couple months later, Dave Chappelle's team hadn't reached out to her friends or family. When we planned another memorial for her in San Francisco, we didn't hear anything from his team. It was like if he said something about her, he would admit that he was responsible for her death. What? I'm not going to say I know for sure 100% that Dave Chappelle making fun of Daphne in his 2019 special was the cause of her death. First of all, why would you even bring that in the situation when you know Daphne was sitting there waiting for a comedian who says controversial jokes to give her some type of, oh, hey, and also shout out to Daphne sitting at home right now with her roommate. Love you guys. Anyway, back to the special. No, he's going to fucking make a joke. And didn't you just say earlier in your writings that she was excited about her shout out? So why would something that she was excited for be anywhere near the cause of why she did what she did? Oh, you mean to try to get it away from the fact that the actual people that was actually attacking her with emotions and making her feel whatever she felt during that time, you trying to exempt them, the people that actually attacked Daphne? Somebody who wasn't out here with Dave Chappelle moving around on tour. It was somebody he met and he decided to befriend himself. So however he went about that friendship is how he went about that friendship. But saying that or trying to even imply it, you see what they try to do, how people go to the extreme length to try to demonize somebody. And then when you talk to, then she talks about, the roommate talks about how she couldn't get through some of his special in 2019 because it punches down on so many marginalized groups. It's crazy how not once she mentioned the fact that Dave Chappelle was saying things that had anything to do with race. She's simply talking about the fact that, or just trying to demonize him. Point blank period. Trying to demonize him. I don't think it was the main cause, but who knows? Daphne had PTSD from a life of trauma, and she had battled thoughts for years. I think the final blow was a combination of her losing custody of her daughter, losing her job, and dealing with a lot of transphobic harassment on the streets of San Francisco. I lived with her, and yet I didn't know how bad she was feeling. I heard from a friend that Dave Chappelle mentioned her last year in a stand-up comedy routine, and he mentioned how he let her open for one of his stand-up routines, but that she bombed it. For him to patronize her, demean her, and minimize her talent after her death is cruel and crass. For him to invoke her name as a free pass to continue being transphobic is beyond fucked up. Listen, I heard from a friend. Bruh. So if anybody out there watched Dave Chappelle stand up, the most recent one, The Closer, and you heard his Daphne story, first of all, he kept it real. Was he supposed to sit there and lie and say, oh, she tore the room down? No. First of all, the setup to the joke was amazing because he made people, first of all, for people that didn't know the story or had no idea who Daphne was, they had no idea how the shit was going to end up. You have to understand storytelling. So he gave the audience all real emotions. He didn't have them sit there with the feeling of, oh, well, we have to feel bad right now because we know that this person ended their life. No, they had no thought of that at all because they didn't have the knowledge. He set up the joke the way that he would tell a story, and it was brilliant. She opened up for him. She bombed. Now, the way that he ended the story, Mrs. Oh, it's been crickets and it's been this and it's been that. Now, how do you look? Matter of fact, there's more to this because I want to make sure that I'm reading everything to see if this person that's speaking on her friend's behalf who probably loved Dave Chappelle, I want to see if this person mentioned anything about the trust fund. Let's see. In the latest Netflix special, he starts off his piece about trans people with, I'm not saying trans women aren't women. No, he didn't start it off. See, now you are misguiding people who haven't seen it. I'm so glad I kept reading because how do you say in his latest Netflix special, he starts off his piece? No, he didn't. He started off with Clifford, the big red nigger, or the big black nigger. You see how they specifically skip over the race shit? If you were so mad, and this is what I mean, if you were so taken back and you were so bothered by the way he punched down on several marginalized groups, the first thing he said in the first joke that he made in his stand-up should have offended you. But no, it didn't. You were very selective because Dave wasn't just talking about trans people. He talked about everybody. It's just that y'all the ones that's not getting it. And then all of a sudden, he has to sit there and spend more time explaining it because y'all skip over every fucking thing. Dave Chappelle did not start his stand-up like this. Go watch it. I can't even read all of this because of the way that she puts this. I can't read all of that. YouTube would get this whole video taken down. But we don't need to read all of that. You can see where that was going. You can see exactly where that person was going with it. how do you skip over the jokes that he made? And then, you know, the one joke that they really skipped over was how he specifically tied in race with everything. And when he asked the question, he asked the flat out blatant question to the entire crowd. Can gay people be racist? He asked the question. Do you see where he's going with it? He didn't ask nothing. Like, even if he believed, like, look, and the one thing that really pisses the one thing that pisses off a lot of people is when people bring up the whole genetic thing and what people were actually born as and all this other shit. Cool. I mean, we can't escape how we were born. We can't escape what we were born as. You can identify as whatever you want to identify. I don't give a fuck what you identify as. I don't give a shit. But him saying something as simple as, you know, what genetically what we were born as, if that bothers you, then people start questioning what it is you trying to actually do. What are you actually trying to say? If you say you identify as something, you say you want to be addressed as something, cool. Now, does everybody have to address you that way? No. See, I, through the eyes of Dave Chappelle, have grown a respect for this Daphne person. So Daphne wanted to be addressed as she. I say she. Cool. There's no sweat off my back. It don't mean shit to me. What am I supposed? I mean, why do I care so much? Why do I care so much about that? I don't give a fuck. You want to be known as she? Go ahead. That's not me. I don't identify as a she. So why the fuck would it bother me? So it's the fact that people skipped over a lot of the racial aspects of things to try to pinpoint only certain words or certain phrases in his jokes to try to cancel him out. You can see the agenda there. Now, let me show y'all this. Let me show y'all how far it's going. And before y'all say anything, I know you niggas gonna come with the jokes, all right? I know you motherfuckers gonna come with the jokes. Stop, all right? Don't come with no jokes, all right? Hold yourselves. Hold your mule, all right? Because you have to hear what this person is saying, because what they're saying is something that is part of the agenda of trying to demonize Dave Chappelle for his stand-up and trying to make it more than what it actually is. Watch how they prompt these. This is how they prompt up certain people, certain individuals, so that they can try to make their point an actual point to drive their narrative and not actually pay attention to the actual words that was said by the person who said them. Watch how this happens.
For 37 minutes, Dave Chappelle made jokes at my expense, literally about my identity, forgetting that I too live at the intersection of being both black and queer and trans. Because tone-deaf jokes like that can get us murdered. Tone-deaf jokes like that call for our murder. Tone-deaf jokes like that ignore my entire existence.
All right. Let me just say this. I don't know what the fuck Dave Chappelle said that would call for people's murder for a specific group. But I can take a good guess and say that anything that he said in that special didn't provoke anybody to be like, yo, I want to go murk me a transgender person. What? Come on. And then let me say something that may be controversial, but it's not really. It's just common sense. I can take a good guess that this person wasn't born trans. They had to discover that about themselves. I could take a good guess that this person was born black, though. You decided to make a change about yourself. One thing you can't do, though, is change the fact that you're black. So for you, now I'm not saying choose a side. That's not what I'm saying. If you want to ride for both black people and both LGBTQ rights, go ahead. But don't sit there and act like you're not talking to a black man or talking about a black man. Why do people forget that Dave is black? I don't understand that. Talking about calling for what? They what do you mean? That's what I'm about to play. That's what I'm about to play. I'm about to play Flame Monroe and what Flame Monroe had to say. Let me show you who the person that I just played, that person, let me show you who they are afraid of. Let me show you. These are the trans individuals that are blocked out from society. Listen to this.
I have 3 dogs in this fight, so let me start there. I'm black, I am a comedian, and I am transgendered. So I have 3 dogs in this fight, and I want to be fair to each and every one of those platforms. What I heard from Dave Chappelle's latest special was the overpouring of racism that he talked about, because I understand that he's talked about the transgender community, and some of the things were painful to hear, but funny, because as a comedian, that is our safe place. That is where we are the safest on stage, where we should feel like we should be able to say anything. Nina Simone said it best. How can you be an artist and not speak about the times? He says it in socially inappropriate ways that people say is not politically correct, but it's teachable moments. And there was no lies told. Here's the hypocrisy for me, Don. And I love my community, LGBTQ plus IA, and I'm saying it correctly because I am still a comedian first, but I'm going to be respectful tonight to everyone involved, because I have three dogs in this fight. The love of me as a comedian will always be in me, but I can hide that. The transgender person that I identify as will always be in me, but I can hide that. But the black person in me, I can never hide.
Now, before I let Flame finish ethering this person, she's talking to Don Lemon right now. Flame is talking to Don Lemon, and let me show you how, just like I showed y'all in the video that I did regarding Kyrie Irving, how people that are put in positions like Don Lemon and like Stephen A. fucking Smith like to try to overtalk somebody, or not even overtalk, but try to deflect and move the goalpost away from somebody who's trying to talk some sense into people, because they need to try to control the narrative and keep the people that's watching them under their spell. Watch how he tries to deflect from what Flame is saying.
I hate the fact that we keep skirting around. So here it is, the hypocrisy. Dave Chappelle gave his friend, his friend who was white and transgender, who wanted to be a comedian, an opportunity to open for him. Dave Chappelle is one of the greatest to do it of our time right now. That was a huge opportunity for her. The LGBT community never reached out to give her any opportunity like that. But then they turned and said that he was transphobic, he was homophobic, all the backlash that he received from 2 or 3 episodes ago from specials. And she stood with her friend, the transgender woman, and stood against Dave to say, no, he's not like that. And the LGBTQIA plus community bashed this woman so bad that she jumped off a building and killed herself. Dave was not responsible for that. So who is? Because
Flame, we
here's
don't
the
know.
thing,
Flame, I have to say,
Don,
we don't know exactly why she killed herself. But anyway, go on. I'm sorry.
But anyway, go on. I'm sorry. Yeah, because it just so happened to happen a week after the Sticks and Stones special, and after Dave was getting all the backlash from the community, and they start going after her, because you can only go after somebody who's still alive, right? You can only go after somebody who is still alive. So she was still alive at the point where she was actually defending Dave and people were going at her. And then shortly after that, what happened? So just like her friend mentioned, oh, she was going through a lot. Daphne was going through this. She lost a child. She lost a job. She lost this. She did that. She was going through a lot. And then you have a whole group of people who you was supposed to confide in, who you thought like, yo, y'all just like me. I want to be able to be like y'all. And I thought this was a safe space, sitting there attacking you because you made the decision to try to take up for somebody. But
her constitution and
it had to be Dave's fault, because Dave gave her a shout out in his special.
My constitution are very different. The backlash at me, I'm not going to do that. But here's the thing, who we blaming for that? You're not blaming Dave. Dave gave her an opportunity that the community did not give her.
I mean, shit. So even if you want to get away from whose fault it was or who's to blame and what made Daphne do this and that, still, Dave gave Daphne an opportunity. This is why I'm saying, whoever the roommate was that put that statement out, please hear and understand this. Know who Dave Chappelle is. Put some respect on the GOAT. He didn't have to give this person any type of look, respect. He didn't have to do, and this is keeping it real. Nobody actually deserves to get respect. You earn that, especially in the business that they're in. There's a lot of untrustworthy people and a lot of leeches. Dave Chappelle could give anybody a chance. He could throw anybody a bone, an alley-oop, and let them get a chance to perform in front of any crowd in America. And he gave your friend, your roommate, an opportunity. Then on top of that, not only did he give this person an opportunity, he opened the door for several more opportunities after that. And then to try to sit there and act like he didn't care that this person passed away, knowing damn well in this special he mentioned the fact that he has a trust fund for the daughter that was taken away from your friend that you also care about so much. Nah, you care about that. You care about that clout. You care about going viral. Oh, I knew Daphne. I was her roommate, so I'm going to go ahead and put this statement out so I can go ahead and hit the tabloids and have CNN cover it and Fox News and all these other outlets, all these media outlets, and have them talk about it and let me try to be the one to tell the truth. And let me show you how much her roommate, her friend that tried to act like she gave so much of a fuck, but really didn't, as she stated in her in her statement, how she stopped giving a fuck after she died. Of course, we can tell. You definitely stopped giving a fuck. Because Daphne's family actually came out and supported Dave. But, ignore their statement. See, anybody in a situation, especially if I'm just somebody's friend, if I was just somebody's roommate, and their family members came out and made a statement, do you think I would be the one to try to overpower what the family said? Do you think I would sit there and try to make it about me? No. But you can tell people's intentions when certain things happen. Do you think if Dave got any backlash on this shit that this person would still be speaking up? No, they saw an opportunity to get at a person that they already didn't like from the jump. That's why I'm saying you got to watch what people say when they say it. You already didn't like this man since 2019. You found the opportunity when people was trying to give him backlash and cancel him and get his special taken off because he did something special for your friend at the end of it. Tried to make him look like he used somebody when really Dave always talks about his life, bro. I always try to tell people about this special that Dave has. First of all, let me show y'all this picture because this is the whole point right here. This is the whole point. And of course, everybody's been skipping over this. You see that? Y'all remember these skits on the Chappelle Show? Y'all remember this? Y'all want him to get canceled over the jokes he made about a specific group, but Dave been talking about everybody since day one. You can't, he is the uncancelable because all you have to do is go back to his motherfucking repertoire. If you go back to the repertoire, you will see that he talks about everybody. He don't single nobody out. No specific group or anything. Let's read this quote. This quote right here says, "Our culture has accepted two huge lies. The first is that if you disagree with someone's lifestyle, you must fear or hate them. The second is that to love someone means you agree with everything they believe or say or do. Both are nonsense. You don't have to compromise convictions to be compassionate." David Chappelle. Should we hit him with another quote, David? Should we hit him with another quote, David? Let me hit y'all with another quote. This was directly from the special. Dave said, I support anyone's right to be who they want to be. My question is, to what extent do I have to participate in your self-image? First of all, this was from a previous Dave special, but Dave had to bring this back up because, like I said, they weren't listening the first time. Dave had to bring this point back up in his last special. He brought up every single joke or punchline in the jokes that when he was talking about the LGBTQ community, he was comparing it to black people and the things that they were going through and how the progress that they've been trying to make for years hasn't gone anywhere. But somehow theirs has progressed, and we actually know why. The charge of it all is the same people who don't really care for black and brown people. But see, they got people who will actually ride for black and brown people over there in that community, who blindly follow it because they don't know that their movement has progressed so far and it's become the way it is now because of the people who lead the way. There is supremacy behind it. Supremacy. Trying not to get blocked out here, trying to stay monetized, but you know what I mean? Supremacy, man. And I'm one of those people who I support your right to do what you want to do. I don't have problems with anybody, any LGBTQ, none of that. I have no problems. Be who you are. Do what you want to. I don't care. I really don't. But when you start seeing things like this, and it's not even because I'm a fan of Dave Chappelle. This is no blind like, oh, I love Dave Chappelle, so I have to defend Dave Chappelle. It's like, no, I see it for what it is. And anybody who knows me and comes to my show to watch me knows that I'm one of those people that see shit for what it is. It's very simple, actually. A lot of people with common sense follow my fucking show too. Everybody in the comments, that's why I value y'all as well. The green room is a lot of common sense having motherfuckers in here. You don't have to hate a group, or you don't have to hate somebody for being gay. That's not what it is. People have been sitting here yelling and screaming and pushing forward and risking their lives, getting beat, getting killed, getting all types of shit thrown at them, and always having this cloud and this narrative over their head. Every time something happens with us, we always have to refer back to us. Well, if this is happening in the community, you have to look at why this is happening. We understand all this shit, but there's still no progress within our community. And then people always refer to the things that we like. Imagine, this is what I mean. Of course, we have to pay attention to things that we do in our community, but imagine if somebody from the LGBTQ community, if something was going on in the community, like a lot of domestic violence. Do you think that when something happens to where people have to support that community, that they go, but what about the domestic violence in the LGBTQ community? No. Motherfuckers just go ahead and ride with what the fuck they got to ride with. But when it comes to us, it's like, but what about black on black crime? What about the hood, the people in the hood that don't give a fuck about the community? There's always excuses for us. We can't make no progress because we're not even gonna get into that. We're not gonna get into that. This is about something different. But I want to play something for y'all because I like the fact that comedians stick together. And one person that I do support and that I do mess with out here in the comedy world is somebody like JB Smooth. So what I'm gonna do is, since I can't play the actual, I can't show y'all the video. I can play the audio. I can't show you the video. Let me show y'all, or let y'all hear what JB had to say about Dave Chappelle. JB a real dude, man. I mess with JB. I really do. I think JB is a funny comic, and he's somebody who I highly respect. I don't know about anybody else in the green room, but I highly respect JB Smooth. I think he's a funny guy. So let's listen to what he had to say about Dave Chappelle.
You know, even, you know, the Dave stuff has been in the news right now, and it's rough for comedians right now, you know. But
you know, Damon Wayans said Dave Chappelle is freeing the comedy slaves. Do you feel like you're being held back in any way? I guess.
Do you agree with that statement? Actually, let me. Matter of fact, that I'm so glad that I played this because that's what I wanted to bring up. That's what I'm gonna put a poll up. Actually, that's what I'm gonna do. Put the poll up. Do you think that Dave Chappelle is freeing the comedy slaves? I'm about to put that up. Let's continue to listen.
I'm not. I go back to the styles.
Right.
Your style, whatever your style is, man. That's what your audience is. That's what your brand is. You know. But I say this: we got to be very careful in this climate, in this world, and how we proceed with comedy, evolution of comedy, because, you know, here's the hard part. You're watching a comedian on stage, you're loving him, you know, he gets backlash. Now, here's the thing that's tricky. Now, if the comedian gets backlash, right, what happens when the camera spins around and now it's on the audience?
And y'all laughing.
And you crying, you banging on, you stomping your feet, your girl hugging you like, ah, he's tripping, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do you get fired because you in the audience laughing?
That's true.
Do you get fired because your boss saw you in there laughing at something that offends him?
That's a scary time to live in. If we get there, oh my God, it's over.
Right.
See, that's the hard part, and we gotta be. I think we gotta pull back a little bit and figure out how we can move forward, and understand the purpose of humor, the purpose of even satire, everything across the board. The purpose of it is to make light of it.
Mm-hmm.
Even poets have a unique way of making you laugh and making you go, "Ooh, that's deep." You know what I mean? But they can go hard.
Mm-hmm.
Poets can go hard, man. You can leave there like either like enlightened or hyped up. Like, yo, you don't know what you're gonna get for.
Does that make
from
you
it.
nervous though, being a comedian? Do you nervously doing interviews and you say the wrong thing? You have so many jobs, so many movies, so many sitcoms. You say something.
You're an Emmy winner now. Congratulations.
I think that's with anything.
Right.
You guys have that issue. If you say
Every day.
every day you guys have to do it, but you got to live, man. You got to live.
And a lot of people know your intent. You've been working in this business for so long, and people can vouch for you and know in case you slip up and something doesn't come out the way that
It happens.
Yeah.
It happens.
You know what I was going to ask you on Curb Your Enthusiasm? Have there ever been times, because the content on there can be really funny. Like I remember there was a kid that loved drawing swastikas on an episode. And even on the last season, right, Chaz Bono was on there and had got this a penis, right? And knocked things over with his penis because he got it too big. Yeah. And so even things like that. Have there ever been times when you guys were like, maybe we can't do that, or...
You know what? You're gonna always have those moments on Curb, man. But again, it's anchored in. It's a brand. It's you know. And I still say you watch. You know, and what's that thing you say? You are what you eat.
That's right.
So you know, you watch what you love. You know what I mean? And you know, we just in this weird place. But I think you watch what you love. That's the amazing thing about where we are in TV. Back then, when I grew up, we only had 3 channels.
That's right, the big
You
three.
had the big 3, man. You watched the big 3. That's it. Everybody watched the same thing. It would be different if that's all we had was 3 channels again, and everybody watched the same TV shows, and everybody's
This is the important part.
offended by the same thing, and everybody laughs at the same thing, and you got it. But now, you got thousands of channels. You can choose to watch what the hell you want to watch. Just like books. You can choose to grab a book and read a book, any book you want to read.
So that's mainly what I wanted y'all to hear with that in that regard. And he was spitting some real shit. Definitely was spitting. Like that's another reason why I respect JB Smooth, because he's echoing the same sentiments that I made when people were talking about certain agendas. I'm like, yo, you got to understand, even though these things pop up in certain places, you have a choice to watch a lot of these things. And when it comes to, and this is what it comes to right here. During the special, do y'all remember the ladies that was standing there that was Who were they? Let me pull them up. I believe I still got the picture in here in my downloads. Let me see. Let me pull them up. Here they go. These old wenches. Hold on. Let me shrink this picture down. These women. Do y'all remember them? If you watch the Dave special, then you know exactly who they are. These women represent the people who go and choose to be a part of something they know they would get offended by. And then on top of that, had the nerve to be close up in some seats that should have been for people who actually love Dave Chappelle and want to hear some good stand-up. I couldn't believe what I was seeing with these individuals right here. They were so mad. And about what? Please ask yourself, what were they mad at? But they represent exactly what Dave was talking about and exactly what I've said and what JB just got done talking about. You have so many other options. People choose to do these things and then want to get offended. I will never understand that. I will never understand that. But hey, if you're watching this right now, man, please leave a like, a subscribe, hit the bell, follow me on my socials. I'll follow everybody back. Hit the Cash App if you are feeling generous. Today is Friday. I would love to see something in the motherfucking green spot. You feel me? Anyway, vote on that right now. Do you think Dave Chappelle is free in the comedy slaves? Vote on it right now. I'm about to close the poll in a minute. And we about to switch up the subject in a second because I do want to talk about Rory and Mal and their new deal and some other things if y'all really know. If y'all know anything about the Joe Budden podcast or about Rory and Mal, then you wanna hear about what's going on with these two if you haven't heard. A lot of people get mad at the truth because they hate to hold up the mirror. People hate to hold up a mirror. So the easiest thing to do is to deflect. Easiest thing to do is deflect. Yeah, the one they laughed a few times, but for the most part, there's a reason why these women stuck out and why they were trending. It wasn't because of a few moments of them just sitting there blank-faced. It was because of specific jokes they weren't laughing at and how they responded for most of the special. Of course, everybody saw them laugh a few times, but they were definitely irritated for most of that special. Ain't no way you can go to a Dave Chappelle special and actually be looking mad. Like, for what? He said, who gives a shit what they're mad about? Look at the... All right, one last vote and we can get out of here. Most of y'all say yeah. Most of y'all say yeah. I respect that. I respect that for sure. All right, we're going to close that poll out. Look. Dave Chappelle is a legend. He's forever going to be a legend and forever going to be uncancelable. You can't cancel Dave Chappelle. He is the GOAT. Dave will cancel himself before he allows any of y'all to ever try to cancel him in the first place. Trust me. I promise you. Now, Rory, and Mealy Mall. I don't know why that's so funny to me. Academics is such a weirdo, but Rory and Mal, formerly of the Joe Budden podcast, have now signed a brand new deal for their podcast, and it's going to be available on Stitcher. Signed it through SiriusXM, and they did it by themselves. Now, the reason I wanted to talk about this is because one thing that bothers me about certain aspects of society is when people look at certain things at a basic level. And that's when people think like, oh, Joe Budden is the guy. He's the host of the show, and without Joe Budden, these two can't make it anywhere. Not even paying attention to what they add to the show or what they do, their contributions or anything. You just be like, oh, well, Joe Budden's the guy. It's Joe Budden podcast. If they got rid of him, Joe can just bring in two other people and it'll be fine. And then you had the people who were saying things about them, like the academics and like the other people, who were talking about how they couldn't survive in the podcast realm without Joe Budden, or without the help of Joe Budden. People didn't think they'd have anything to talk about. People didn't think that they'd be interesting enough to listen to. Then, when the news broke that they started their seat, because everybody knows, or a lot of people, I don't know, maybe everybody knows or don't know, but how it basically came down to it was money problems, which always breaks up personal relationships with people. It's always money, especially when things start getting hot. The Joe Budden podcast started to see millions of dollars for what they were doing. And when money gets involved, that personal friendship or that personal relationship that you have with those people ends up most of the time becomes skewed. Everything starts to get twisted. Things start happening and people start looking at people funny. From my perspective, I think that Joe mishandled his friendships with these guys. And when it came down, of course, business is separate from your personal relationships with people. Always remember that. But when there's moments outside of business and you guys are having conversations, which, you know, both these people have spoken about, there were situations, and Joe has said he was at fault at some of these things that, you know, when you look at it from a friend standpoint, you're starting to look at people in a different way. They were looking at Joe as somebody that didn't really value them in their positions. Now, like I said, you can say that they didn't add anything or that they didn't contribute anything to the show, but what it came down to is, okay, well, if you feel that way, let's see what they can do on their own. And clearly, new Rory and Mal, their podcast, has been doing very well for itself. And it brought them to the point now where they have signed, hold on, let me see, a $10 million deal with SiriusXM, and their podcast is going to be on Stitcher. Here's a quote from Rory. He said, "I feel like podcasting has become pretty static and little oversaturated, where everyone is just setting up microphones and talking about the same thing every single day. It's because it's become like the new mixtape or new merch line." He also went on to say, "I think the whole world saw that what Mal and I stood for and where our heads were at were as far as what we were going to tolerate and not tolerate. We weren't just going to do a deal just to do a deal. We publicly turned down more money than most podcasters ever dreamed to see. So we're not doing something unless it's a deal that's fair." And the interviewer asked, "Just to confirm, both of you continue to own the show?" Mal said, "Oh, absolutely." And Rory said, "We have 100% ownership of our show." So not only do they own their show, they own 100% of the show. So you have to give some type of credit to that. Now, we know they got popular because of Joe. We know that that nobody would really know of them in a podcast realm if it wasn't for doing the Joe Budden podcast. But you also have to remember that when the podcast started, it wasn't the Joe Budden podcast. So it wasn't like everybody was just like, yo, of course, majority people pulled in because of Joe Budden. But you grow fans and you grow notoriety, and you have, and that's what I mean by the fact that their podcast still did good without Joe. See, if it was Joe making them the people that wanted to be watched, the people that came there because of Joe wouldn't just sit there and only watch them. They wouldn't have the same numbers or even better numbers than Joe Budden podcast right now if it was the case. I feel like they built that. They earned that. So these guys earned their spot in the podcast realm. And a lot of people didn't know that they did shit before the podcast scene. Rory and Mal were involved with music before all the podcast shit even happened. So they have their connections. They have certain people that they already, they're already connected to. They have the resources. Why not continue on in the podcast realm? Now, I wanted to read some excerpts from this, but we all know how their situation happened. I just want to play some so that we are reminded of how some of this went down.
These benchmarks. Hey, y'all go get a deal and bring it back. I'll take less. I'll take less. Not much less. Not much less. But I'll take less if y'all source it. Hey, y'all go get the advertiser and the integration. Hey, we talk about these deals all the time. You bring it, you eat different. I bring it, I eat different. You niggas ain't brought shit and got the nerve to have y'all fucking representation and ain't been around in 6 years, hit Ian phone about something. I won't say what I want to say, but y'all will not continue to treat me this way. Y'all not gonna continue to treat these people this way. Y'all take that fucking dark energy, that arrogance, and that entitlement somewhere else. PTSD. I say all of that to say, we gonna do this. Since Rory feels like he has so many options here. Somehow he still feels like he's running the show. He still feels like he has choices and options. He feels like he's entitled to more. Rory, you are in breach of your contract, and from this point forward, you are fired, and you're not welcome back.
That part was hilarious. He told them niggas it was fired. Or just Rory he was fired. He didn't tell Mal he was fired. Let me read some of y'all comments, man. What are y'all saying? Mickey says, what do you say? He said, I hate that people don't act as if Joseph didn't on air talk to these guys about doing their own podcast and doing their own thing, and they literally said no all the time. Joe did nothing to these cats. I hope you pay attention to Joe, because Joe has apologized for a few of the things that he's done already. On Code always says, let me tell you something. Coming from a father of 2 NFLers, and now this year, my nephew, that 10 mil first, fist taxes, 4.9 mil, a little over 2 mil a piece of that don't have to pay anyone, or if they don't have to pay anyone, put some into the company. Okay. Lovelace said maybe it's easier to own 100% because it's just 2 people. When you have to divide among more, it can be a little more challenging. Just my thought. Okay. The one says they are going to fall out. Mark my words. That paper is going to bust them up too. No hate, just facts. Okay. Mickey says you're actually proving Jules' point because they didn't do any of this when they were with Joe. They let Joe do all the work. Then they leave Joe to go start doing work. I guess they weren't doing work. I was under the impression they were doing work when they were on the Joe Budden podcast, but maybe I was deceived. He said got some nasty mustard. Mickey said he was right. He was right. How was he entitled to the work that Joe was doing? You're acting as if the work that they're doing now, which they deserve money for, what is the word that they were doing with Joe? If you're on the podcast and you're literally doing the same thing Joe is doing, we're sitting there talking about the subjects at hand, you're doing the same thing as Joe. Now, I'm not saying you handle the business the same way as Joe, because when the contract was brought to Joe, it was brought to Joe. I'm not disputing that. I'm not disputing at all that Joe Budden was the main source of everything. The whole dispute between them was the money shit. This is what I'm talking about. They had a dispute about how they were valued. They felt like they were undervalued. They felt like they were underpaid. Now, whether or not you agree with it, that's just an opinion. If they felt like they were deserved more, then that's how they felt. I'm not finna tell them what they deserved. I wasn't there with them. I didn't see what they were doing. We got the same view that everybody else got every time the Joe Budden podcast came on. So to think that they weren't doing work or doing things behind the scenes or anything at all, that is an opinion. But I can give you an educated guess and say that Rory and Mal just weren't showing up just to do the podcast and going home and going to sleep. So, I mean, there were tours that they did. They toured. They went to different venues. They did different actual live shows. Like, this wasn't just them popping up every day and getting to eat off Joe. It was like they contributed to the show. People act like Rory and Mal was just sitting on the couch just vibing, waiting for the show to be done. Nah, they contributed to the show. Now, they do deserve the money they do got now because they've been working for it. And they've been putting in the work in the podcast realm because now they know what to do. So take what you learned and multiply that. He said all Mal added was word, and that's crazy. Mickey said, we're not talking about the talking of the podcast. We're talking about the financing of the podcast, going to get deals, going to get guests. So that's what I mean. Right when I mentioned the fact that they've done things other than the podcast, they were heavily connected. Rory and Mal already were connected in the music industry. And talking about the people that they brought into the show, Rory and Mal have been the people bringing people to shows too. Like this, they've brought deals to Joe. Joe just didn't want to take some of the deals that they brought. It doesn't mean that he had to take the deal. It was just that they were in the realm of doing some shit. Matter of fact, there was the instance where Rory brought some shit to Joe, and Joe got mad at the fact that somebody hit up Rory about trying to take a deal about the fucking Joe Budden podcast. But it was like, nigga, I'm part of the podcast. If somebody brought something to me and I brought it to you, that's what I'm supposed to do. Right? It's crazy. JJ said Rory and Mal's dispute was over accounting. They had a profit agreement contract. They wasn't asking for more. They just wanted to know how much came in. Joe blew it. Exactly. That's what I mean. And they felt undervalued. They were feeling like they were being undervalued. And then when they look at some shit and wanted to find some shit out and couldn't actually get the actual factual information from them, then they were thinking they were being underpaid. Mickey said the dispute was about money because Joe was doing all the outside work. Joe just explained in the rant that he was the one doing everything. He told Rory in the rant to go do it himself. Then he did, but beforehand, all they did was show up and talk. Nah, dude, no, that is wrong. That is wrong. You are getting. I feel like the only person you did pay attention to was Joe. And also, if you did only pay attention to Joe, you would have seen Joe apologize for that too. Because he spoke about the fact that Rory and Mal did other things behind the scenes, and that people that think that they just showed up just to talk are out of their minds. Those are words from Joe. So I just want to let you know that. I'm just speaking on that. See, I wanted to make sure that I've listened to both sides and whatnot. And this isn't about me sitting here like trying to flame Joe or make Joe look like a bad guy or anything like that, or like it's all Joe's fault. Like I said, when money is involved, it fucks up everything. So something as simple as wanting to look at the books or look at the finances and make sure everything was right, there was nothing wrong with that. But it also, Joe feeling like, why am I showing you the books to something you aren't in charge of, is also right for him. Now that's when the conflict happens, though. That's when the conflict happens. So now we sit in a realm where Joe and these guys have to deal with their conflict between each other as friends. That's why I say that I didn't believe. Now, I said that earlier. I didn't believe that Joe really valued their friendship. And like I said, of course you separate business and personal, whatever. But when you feel a certain type of way, sometimes you got to reassure your friends or the people that you actually give a fuck about that, yo, I'm not trying to fuck y'all over. As simple as that. And when they felt like they weren't getting the answers that they felt like they should have got, well, that's how it happens. Mickey said, so if I come on your show, people like me, and you start bringing me on the GMS show every week, how much of your show is mine now? It's not about bringing you on. You got to remember the origin. They all started this, basically all started this together. Okay, so Joe started, right? Matter of fact, how many people, let me ask you that question. How many people do you think would just watch Joe Budden? Answer that. Like, let's keep it real. How many people would actually just watch Joe Budden? And I'm talking about from when the podcast started. Now, Joe got his opportunity on Complex. All the other shit was going on, but all this, the Joe Budden podcast was, or the I'll name this podcast later, was already popping. And when it started popping, it was popping with all three of them. It didn't pop with just Joe. When he added these people on, is when things started to move. So I'm not saying that they own anything. I'm talking about how they felt like they were valued. You're missing my point. I understand what you're saying, Mickey, but you're missing my point. You got to understand how this thing kind of formed together. Let me read some of y'all shit. Origins of Humanity said, I was looking at Joe versus Rory and Mal viewership, and I see why Joe want them back on the podcast. He was losing subscribers and they were gaining. I did see that. Eternal said, people only side with Joe because he's loud and appears to be the bad guy. Yeah. I think some people that are loud speak with conviction and speak with their truth too. Joe's one of those people that have been through a lot and speaks his truth. And even when he gets loud, he's just speaking his truth. That's kind of just how some people are. Birdman Flocka said Joe and Rory started the show together. Mal came later after they fired Marissa. JJ said Mickey would be right if they didn't have a contract, but they did, fam. Joe agreed to profit sharing. They got funny with the profits, I guess. Mal was never on I'll name this podcast later. Yeah, he was. He came after, yeah, because that whole Marissa thing happened, and yeah. Mickey said, if a friend of mine calls me up to be on a podcast and starts paying me half, 1 million, I'm not going to start all of a sudden thanking later on that. Now it's our shit. No, it's not. Look, if this is the show, like what it didn't change it to the Joe Budden podcast until later. Everybody is a part of the shit. If I decide to bring you a part of my show and now you are a part of my show, now I feel like this is a part of you now. I do feel that way. I don't mean that you're entitled to 100% of the earnings. That's where your common sense should come in. That even though you joined in on this and now you are a part of this entity, that doesn't mean you are entitled to everything that I get being the person that created this shit. But I'm also not going to undervalue you or make you feel like you can just take crumbs or whatever the case may be just because of the fact that, well, it's my shit and I can do whatever. That's what I mean. Let me refer back to the fact that this is when it comes down to the friendship part of it. Nora Sun said, you capping for Joe. The truth is Joe did a lion's share of the work and got a Resentment when Pod took off and started feeling himself. Loved Joe, but he hurt himself. They were great together. I respect that. Zorak said, I see a lot of white people like Brandon Schwab and Theo Vaughn that have multiple pods. Why couldn't they have made separate ones and stayed with Joe? I don't know. Mickey said, no, they didn't. Joe started with the white guy from Hot 100 and Marissa. Then Rory came. Then way into the podcast, Mal and Ice used to come. Hey, you talking about Rosenberg. Rosenberg from Hot 97. Yeah, they still, Rosenberg still has he still feels some type of way about how Joe Budden and Marissa's relationship went down. But then that's another thing. You look at the Joe Budden and Marissa relationship. You look at all these other relationships that Joe had and that Joe kind of facilitated. There we go. I was about to say felicitated. Facilitated. A lot of these people would say that Joe was the fault of it, but I think Joe just has a way of just gauging how certain things are coming to an end. I think after the whole everything that was happening between him and the guys behind the scenes and then them taking a break away from the show and how shit was going, he knew at that point that shit was going to be off. And I honestly can understand that because I'm one of those people that reads energy. So it's like if I feel like the energy is off and it could be off from this point on, or trying to feel like we should be trying to make it back towards a certain type of positive whatever, I'm just going to be like, you know what, that right there is like that. This shit right here is coming to an end. Like, of course, things can be fixed behind the scenes, but I mean, some people feel like they can just move forward without the shit. Some people function better that way. Maybe Joe functions better with two other people on the show than Rory and Mal. You know what I'm saying? Maybe that's it. I don't know. But now, here comes the question I'm going to ask y'all. Is Rory and Mal a better podcast than the Joe Budden podcast? Don't be putting no yes and no's in the fucking chat. Vote on the goddamn poll. Press yes or no. I'm only asking y'all this question for fun, so answer the question truthfully. I don't have an answer in this one. I just want to do this for fun. Let me know what y'all think. Put them votes in. We gonna wait till it gets to about 20 votes, and then we gonna switch the subject because I'm about to I'm about to ruffle some feathers on this next one. Put your votes in. Let me see where y'all voting at. Is Rory and Mal a better podcast than Joe Budden podcast? He said you gotta add Ty to the poll. Oh, it's all good, Brim. Stony said, Is it raining here? It might actually be raining. I just looked out the fucking window and it's very cloudy. But I don't see no rain on the horizon. We gonna see where it's at. Once we get to 20 votes, I'll end the poll. Once we get to 20 votes, I will end the poll. We got 19. We need one more. Once we get to 20, I'm going to end the poll. Is the Rory and Mal, new Rory and Mal podcast better than, we got 20 votes. And there you have it. 60% say yes, 40% say no with 20 votes. I guess people think Rory and Mal have a better podcast than the Joe Budden podcast. And this is also just a way for me to tell y'all, the people that are here watching this who haven't watched the Joe Budden podcast or haven't watched Rory and Mal's podcast, this should be a way for you to go and check them out. All right? Just to let y'all know. So go ahead and support them, because you know what we do at the GMS show. This isn't about pinning these brothers against each other. This is about making sure that y'all continue to support them, all right? We can talk about the controversy. We can talk about the ups and downs. We can talk about who was right, who was wrong. But at the end of the day, these are black men with platforms, and they supposed to be out here succeeding, and I want them all to succeed. I want them all to win. I want them all to flourish, and I want them all to be able to take care of their families. So with that said, please go and support them, both Rory and Mal's podcast and the Joe Budden podcast. Now let's get to this last subject, man. I have to get to this. Superman comes out. Yes, you heard that. For those that did not see, they have revealed that Superman is now gay. And the story that DC is going to use is this. Now, this is a post from Washington Post, so let me read how they put it. This is the words and this is the typings of the Washington Post. They said, so much for damsel in distress. Today's superheroes, it seems, aren't all that interested in women. To be more inclusive, DC Comics announced in current iteration of Superman, Jonathan Kent will come out as bisexual in the next issue of the comic series as he struggles to protect and save the world. DC explained that Kent, the son of Clark Kent and Lois Lane, turns to his male friend, reporter Jay Nakamura, for support, and the two become romantically involved. Superman is just the latest hero to come out. A couple of months ago, DC Comics also revealed that Robin, Batman's sidekick, was bisexual. And in March, Marvel Comics, DC's rival company, unveiled a new Captain America who is also gay. Apparently, this departure from the superheroes who we grew up with is necessary to ensure more people can see themselves in the comics. I've always said everyone needs heroes and everyone deserves to see themselves in their heroes. And I'm very grateful DC and Warner Bros. Shared this idea, Jonathan Kent's creator, writer Tom Taylor said in the statement, but this won't be enough for the woke left. Activists who applauded DC Comics character changes have already begun to suggest the company has not done enough, saying the DC multiverse should include more people of color as well as more transgender people and lesbians. They won't be satisfied until every heterosexual superhero has been replaced, and that's fine. No one wants to read about a Superman who fights climate change instead of evil villains anyway. Damn. The Washington Post went in. All right. Just to save this stream, I'm gonna put up one last poll, and then we're gonna should Superman be gay now? All right, we're gonna put this last poll, and then we're gonna go ahead and move around because it's Friday. I want to make sure y'all enjoy y'all Friday. If it's nice where y'all at, we go put this poll up, man. Y'all answer the poll and do what y'all want to do. Look, I don't look. I'm gonna say this before I move forward. Once again, I do not care what people do with their lives. I don't care what you identify as. I don't care who you love. I don't care who you sleep with. There are other ways to go about teaching people about other things when it comes to this shit. There are other ways. That's all I'm gonna say. But just vote on the poll, and we gonna do it how we normally do when we get up out of here. GMS fam, the green room. Look, if you didn't participate in the chat today, now is your time. Put GMS in the comments right now. I'm about to shout out every single person who puts the GMS in the comments. Let's go. Vote on that poll. Vote on that poll. Pause. Let me see them GMSs. About to light up right now. Hey, shout out Love Lace Brim Dog, North Mim 901 Prophylactic Tactics, Mickey Knox, Arius Allen, Pedro Lee, Crippin Daily. I said the same thing, Mickey. Why don't you just make your own superhero, man? Nobody gives a fuck about that. Why you gotta change the other superheroes? We didn't need to change them. Just fucking make a new one. Super Fruit Booty Man. C Mo, JL, Marilyn Barris, Theodora NYC, Big Fro Luda, the one. Keep putting them GMS in the comments. Shout out to Queen Kels, Kid at Heart. King Lukey. Hey, yo, if y'all didn't do it on the last show, y'all better do that shit right now. It's Friday, and I know y'all need something to jam to. So y'all need to go ahead and get this beat tape, this free beat tape. GMS episode 5 is out right now. Click that link I just posted. Click that link I just posted and go listen to that beat album, that motherfucking GMS Volume 5, Episode 5, whatever you want to call it. What up, Nuke? Mickey Knox, Trey 979. He said Eggplant Man. He said they could have just simply called him Gay Man. The Brown Twizzler. Make sure you hit that link, man. This the end of the show, so you ain't got no excuse. Leave this motherfucker. Get the fuck out of here. Click that link and go listen to that motherfucking beat album right now. GMS episode 5. I guarantee you it's a banger, all right? GMS fam, y'all have a wonderful weekend. Pull up on us later tonight at the 3Gs podcast. I'm out.